Okay, gentlemen, today we are going to discuss NVQ Level 6 Diploma in Occupational Health and Safety Practice. So, in this course, now today we are going to discuss the fifth unit of this course. As we have discussed 4 units before this, now we are moving to the fifth unit. The unit ID is Y/616/9535 and the title of this unit is Identify, Assess and Control Health and Safety Risk. So with this name, actually, now we can understand that it is speaking about the identification, assessment, and control of safety risk, health and safety risk. So in this unit, we will discuss the inspections, we will discuss the risk assessment. So that's why this unit will be a longer one than the first 4 units. So in this one, we have 5 learning outcomes. Technically here we have 5 LO here to complete this unit. As usual, the 5th unit is about the CPD, and we are not considering that portion of each unit right now. For CPD, we will do it in the last. So here, what we have to fulfill the learning outcomes and assessment criteria for 4 learning outcomes. For these 4 learning outcomes, we have almost 28 assessment criteria. So if we want to complete this unit, if we want to successfully complete this unit, in this regard, what we have to do, we have to successfully achieve the pass grade in 28 assessment criteria. So in learning outcome 1, we have 6 assessment criteria. In learning outcome 2, we have 6 assessment criteria. In learning outcome 3, we have 9 assessment criteria. And for the last learning outcome, the learning outcome 4th one, we have 7 assessment criteria to compete, or you can say to meet them. Otherwise, our unit is not passed at all. So starting from this first one, we have first learning outcome for this unit 5 is be able to conduct an inspection of the workplace. Here, it is discussing about the proactive or active monitoring technique which we are using in our workplaces. As you know, that there are 2 techniques for monitoring the health and safety in the workplace: the proactive or active monitoring, and then we have reactive monitoring. So inspection is a tool, you can say, is a practice which we do for proactive or active monitoring. So this learning outcome will totally focus on that how we can how we are able to conduct an inspection of the workplace, as it is requirement of the course that we have to consider all of these requirements, the assessment criteria, with respect to our workplace. So everyone has to work on this section of the unit according to their workplace, that what type of workplace they have there where they are working. So in the first one, you can see there is 1.1. We have identify the requirements to carry out So in this one, we have 1.1, identify the requirements to carry out a health and safety inspection. So here it is asking that what you have to explain in the, you can say, the potential narrative. You have to explain actually that what are the requirements to carry out a health and safety inspection in your workplace. So considering this, first thing what you can do, why do you conduct workplace inspections? Consider statutory legislation such as Regulation 5, Management of Health and Safety at Work Regulations 1999. Any workplace requirements or procedure. So first, it is asking about the identify the requirements. As I have told you in the earlier units that there are basically two types of requirements which you face normally, and even we can elaborate these into 3 or 4, but mostly we have two types of requirements in our workplace. The first one is legal requirement for anything, and the second thing is the organizational requirement in your workplace. So when it comes to identifying the requirements to carry out a health and safety inspection, you have to focus on two things. First, you have to explain that what is the law which required from you that you have to perform a safety inspection in your workplace. And secondly, what is the process or procedure or protocol do you have in your organization, and what is your organizational requirement with respect to conducting the workplace inspection. First, you have to explain that, and then what you have to do, you as an evidence, you have to produce a inspection sample. In this one, as an evidence, you can produce the workplace health and safety inspection form do you have in your organization. Along with that, it will be a good practice if you will provide me two completed forms too. So you can provide in the form of evidences, you can provide two completed workplace inspection form and one blank workplace inspection form as an evidence in this assessment criteria 1.1. Is it fine for everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, now moving forward to 1.2, we have inspect the workplace to identify and evaluate hazards. As you know, that inspection is a part of monitoring, that it's confirming that you have some type of control measures, you have actually implemented some controls in the workplace with respect to the hazards and risks you are having in your workplace. So in this, what you have to do, you have to identify and evaluate hazards. But do remember, it is not asking about the risk assessment. So here, what you have to, how you can support your answer, that as it is a part of active or proactive monitoring. So what you have to do, for please kindly mute yourself. Okay. So what you have to do, you have to perform some kind of active monitoring practices like safety inspection, like safety sampling, like safety tour, and other thing you have. Maybe it is just like any observation you are doing in your workplace. So in this regard, what type of evidences are required from you are in the form of safety inspection, safety sampling, safety survey, and safety tour. Whatever you perform in your organization on daily basis, you have to provide 2 to 3 forms which are confirming that you are actually identifying or evaluating the hazards in that inspection forms. Is it fine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's 1.3, evaluate hazards through observation of work activity. Dear, first of all, we have to understand the term evaluate hazards here. So actually, basically you can say that after the identification of hazards and then applying control measures according to that hazards are according to their identification, then we make sure we actually evaluate that the control measures we have already taken are working accordingly or not. So in this regard, what you have to do, you have to do the same. What you have to do and how you are going to same, how what I am asking from you, that evaluate hazard through observation of work activities. So basically it is also asking about the safety sampling, safety tour you have performed in your workplace, and you have evaluated the hazards through observation of work activities. Like you have some type of inspection sheet there, you have safety tour, safety sampling record sheet there. So on that record sheet, on that form, you have evaluated some type of hazards, their control measure, and how effectively that control measures are working. So you have to explain that, and secondly you have to produce evidence of that you have such document which can confirm these things. Is it fine?
Yeah.
Chicha, Fahad, Mahmood, Suraj?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. Okay, then
Yes,
that's fine.
okay.
Okay.
It's clear, Mr. It's clear.
Okay. Okay, now moving forward to 1.4, it is asking examine proposed activities to identify and evaluate hazard, including new workplaces, new equipment, processes, and activities. Actually, here it has given the different names to the workplace, equipment, process, and activity. All of you mostly know that whenever we are performing inspection in our workplace, so what we normally consider there, we consider 4 P's there. Do remember the 4 P's there. The first P is premises. What is mentioned here is workplace. The second is your actually you can say here your procedures, then your process, and then the people. You have to consider that 4 P's. Here it is actually asking the same what I have told you, like in the form of 4 P's. So what you have to see there, you have to examine proposed activities, that what activities you are performing in your workplace. So considering the new workplaces, equipment, process, activities, you have to identify the hazards. For this purpose, you have to perform a health and safety inspection, or you have to perform a health and safety tour there, or you have to perform safety sampling there. Okay, dear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Next we have 1.5, select and use appropriate measuring equipment. So for this purpose, you have to consider different things, like it is asking about something practical. What type of workplace do you have? For example, if you have a workplace like where we are having too much gases there, or we can having a problem with the gases in the form of hazards and risk, and sometime in the construction industry you are having a problem with dust. So in some workplaces you are facing the problem or issue of noise, vibration. So in this 1.5, it is actually asking that that in your workplace, what type of equipment you are using to measure different levels of, you can say, hazards you are facing in your workplace, or the activities you are facing in your workplace. So with regard to that, you have to check with there, like you have decibel meters there, you have air monitoring systems there, you have light meters there. So it is actually focusing on that what type of equipment practically you are using in your workplace to measuring the different levels of different substances present in your workplace, because it is the part of inspection that you have to take the readings of the levels of the substances present in your workplace. Is it fine for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Now moving forward to the last assessment criteria for learning outcome 1. Here we have maintain records of the hazards identified in sufficient detail to meet statutory requirements, organizational requirements, industry best practice. So as in the start, I have told you that we have two mandatory requirements, whatever the activities we have in our workplace. So we have to perform that activities, but considering these requirements in our mind. So when it comes to this, we have two types of requirements. The first one, statutory requirement, and the second one is organizational requirements. So actually it is asking about that what type of recording system do you have in place for such inspections, such safety sampling, safety tours, that how you are keeping the record of these. The third thing is mentioned here, the industry best practice, actually that the standard or the good practice you are using for this purpose. So keeping in mind, actually it is asking you that how you are having a look on these records. So for this purpose, what you can do, you have company server structure, like you have a online or cloud-based storage there you are putting your inspection reports, your sampling reports, your safety tours, because it is statutory requirement to keep the record of all the things. So in this regard, you have to manage, because as I have earlier explained you, that you have to be strict with some type of regulatory requirement. So in this, with regard to that, you have to keep a record of all of these with you. For this purpose, you can have a company server structure, online or cloud-based storage, review process or procedure, quality management requirement there. You should have a proper documentation system there for separately for this monitoring. Smear, can you hear me? Why he can't hear me?
I think he has connected without audio. The problem is
I
from
think.
his side.
I think.
Yeah.
Just
the problem is from him.
a moment, please.
No, for us, Mr. Asad is okay.
Yeah.
For us is okay. I am hearing it very good.
Yeah. I have asked. I have told him that everyone is listening me properly, so you have to check with you. Zaha is also saying not clear.
We are
Someone with the ID of ZA is saying that not clear. Please check with your audio, please, audio options, because most of the guys are using their cell phone. Me, Nias. Okay, Nias, check your internet option, because we are having a smooth discussion right now. Okay. Okay, now I am going to move forward. Okay, is it clear for everyone, this first learning outcome?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Please, didn't get evidence required of this 1.6.
Yeah, evidence you are asking?
Yes.
Yeah,
What
in
type
the
of evidence required?
okay, for this one, teacher, you okay, I check. Okay, teacher, for this one, you have to give me the evidence that you have some type of system there in your organization where you are keeping the record of these inspections, and you can even just let me give me a screenshot of a intranet system do you have in your organization where you are putting the information, and this type of information is required as an evidence from you.
All right, I think what we have, basically, we are keeping hard copies.
Okay,
Project based.
okay, if you are copying, if you are having hard copies, then you have to give me a sample of that, one or two things, that how you are managing
Okay.
are tracking these documents, because whenever we discuss about the documented system, even it is in the hard form, the tracking is the integral part of that documentation system, that we should have a clear traceability there. Otherwise the document, we can't use them properly if we are missing the traceability of documents. If we are not having the proper system for tracing the document, then we can have some problems. So you can provide me the documents even in the hard form, you can provide me in the scan copy or PDF as an evidence, but do remember that that documents properly linked with some system, even in the form of some procedure or process you have in your organization. These forms should show some you can say interaction, some relationship with that system.
Okay.
Okay, now moving forward to the be able to assess risk to health and safety. Now it is moving towards the risk assessment, and all of you know very well that a health and safety policy is the foundation stone for health and safety management system. But do remember that the risk assessment is the backbone of occupational health and safety management system. So we have learning outcome, be able to assess risk to health and safety. For this, we have 6 assessment criteria. So first of all, we have 2.1, select appropriate risk assessment methods. So for risk assessment method, do remember that it should be, who is there? Okay, do remember, dear, that for appropriate risk assessment method, what we can say with the what we can understand with the appropriate risk assessment methods. Actually, when it comes to the selection of appropriate risk assessment methods, we do consider that the appropriate risk assessment method will be that which can help us for doing the sufficient and suitable risk assessment in our workplace. That sufficiency and suitability is not there, then we can face problems, because as you know, that the suitability with the workplace is important part of that, and without sufficiency and without suitability, we can't, this type of risk assessment can't help us. So in this select appropriate risk assessment method, what method of risk assessment have you used? Qualitative, semi-quantitative, or quantitative? Why is this method suitable for your workplace? You have to explain that. So what you have to do, you have to explain that what type of data method you are using. Like we have qualitative risk assessment method, that when we can't measure it, because as you know that health and safety is a qualitative thing. Okay, so in this regard you have to explain that what type of risk assessment methods do you have in your workplace, right? Like qualitative, semi-qualitative, quantitative, or quantitative method. Quantitative methods you can use once there are things gone, some specific time has gone, and then you can perform the risk assessments. And also you have to explain that why you are using such, or why you are using this risk assessment method in your organization. So for evidence you have to provide risk assessment records. Okay, but risk assessment records with the information like calculation of risk, priorities of risk. So you have to use a risk assessment which is actually explaining each and everything, including the profiling of risk. So you have to produce that as an evidence. Okay, now moving forward to 2.2, it is easy one. Conduct a risk assessment of the hazards identified. All of you should have performed some risk assessment in your workplace. So you have to produce a copy or produce a risk assessment performed by you for your workplace. You have to provide that as an evidence. Then 2.3, select and use instruments or methods to determine the level of exposure affecting employees other who may be affected. Now when it comes to this one, determine risk to select and use instruments or methods to determine the level of exposure affecting employees other who may be affected. So what you have to do, you have to perform a risk assessment here, and you have already performed some type of risk assessment, but in that risk assessment the identifications and the control measures are according to your specific work environment. Like just saying that I am performing a risk assessment is a generic thing, and if you are performing a noise risk assessment, you are performing a vibration risk assessment, these are the specific things. So you have to explain that what instruments or methods you are using in your workplace to identify, to perform the risk assessment with respect to your workplace. Then determine risk to health and safety of employees, others who may be affected. So it is asking about the second stage. Like in first one, it is focusing on that what type of hazards do you have in your workplace with respect to the nature of work you are performing in your workplace. So in 2.4, it is simply asking that what are the risks actually you can say can affect the employees or other who may be present there. So actually it is asking for the risk.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Sorry, you said that I am not joined the last week program because I am not around, so I'm away from Qatar now. So I may not finish this class, okay, because I was busy.
Sorry.
Okay, this is Elijah.
Elijah, do remember that after the class, just leave a message on my WhatsApp, and then I will share you the last lecture.
Okay, thank you. I will do that.
Okay. Yes, teacher, please.
Yeah, you just quickly you run through this 2.4. I didn't actually understand what you.
No, I have not completed that. I just answered to Elijah. I am just going to explain it more. Yeah.
2.3, I mean, almost the same, 2.3.
Okay. For 2.3, you are asking.
2.4.
Okay. Listen. I'm going to repeat it for you. In 2.3, it is actually asking for that what methods or what level of exposure affecting techniques or whatever the hazards your workers are facing in your workplace. So you have to explain there. For example, you have noise monitoring there, you have air quality monitoring there. So you have to explain that instruments, that what method or instrument you are using, that what type of issue or what type of hazard the employees and others are facing in the workplace. But in 2.4, you have to explain the risk to health and safety of employees, other who may be affected. So just I want to clear one thing, that what is hazard? Hazard is actually any substance, material or human activity which has potential to cause harm or loss. Okay. When it comes to the risk, it is basically a combination of two things. First one is likelihood, and the other one is the consequence. So the likelihood of any hazardous event and the consequences of that event, when we have a combination of both, we can call it a risk. So actually, with respect to like electricity is a hazard, but electric shock is a risk. So even the burn injuries are the risk. So you have to explain the hazards in 2.3 and the risk in 2.4. Now it's fine?
Yes, sir.
Chicha?
Okay.
Yes, clear, sir.
Okay. Now 2.5, we have prioritize the health and safety risk to implies
So,
other. Yeah.
Evidence here. What evidence will be required here?
Brother, risk assessment. Because in the risk assessment, you always explain that this is the hazard and how it is going to affect the employees. So basically affecting the employees directly, that what can happen to them. So is risk. So you have explained that what can happen to them. So with the help of, or what is the cause of that, is hazard. So actually you have to you can say from 2.1 to 2.5, all the evidences will be different risk assessment, or even a same risk assessment will be enough for these 5 assessment criteria. But you have to explain, when it comes to the explanation, you have to explain them according to the assessment criteria.
Okay.
Is it fine?
Fine.
Okay. Now moving to the prioritize the health and safety risk too. Do remember, bro, that prioritizing the health and safety risk is, we call it risk profiling. So why we do risk profiling? Actually, it is required that the hazards or risk, you can say, can get the proper importance with respect to their severity. If the outcome is too much severe, we will put that risk on the top priority. Because what happened if we continue working on or controlling the small risk, the lower risk? So what happened that the 1 overlooked most fair risk can destroy the whole workplace. So just focusing on that. So what we will do, we do risk profiling, we do prioritization of the health risk with respect to their severity, and then you can say selecting the control measures for them, and giving the proper proportion, or you can say the proper ratio to each risk with respect to its severity. So that actually we do the risk profiling just to prioritize the health and safety risk, and controlling them with the proportion or ratio they required. So in this regard, you have to explain the risk profiling, and as an evidence, you have to produce a risk assessment. Is it fine?
Yes.
Yes.
Fahad? Mahmood?
Yes, it's clear, Mr. Asad, clear.
Okay. Now moving forward to 2.6, maintain records of the risk assessment in sufficient detail to meet statutory requirements, organizational requirements, industry best practice. All of you knew very well that when it comes to the recording or having a proper document controlling system in place, so we have everything in that. So actually, as an evidence, we can use the same evidence what we have in 1.6, because again it is asking about the recording of documents. So you have to produce the records. You have risk assessment register there, you have any servers there, any system there, any online system there where you are putting these records. So you have to produce the same evidence even what you have in 1.6, but you have to explain there that it is using in 2.6. You have to explain that documented system with respect to risk assessment. But when it comes to 1.6, you have to explain that a document controlling system with respect to health and safety inspections. Is it fine?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now moving towards the third learning outcome. The third learning outcome is be able to implement risk control measures and safe system of work in the organization. So actually, the learning outcome 3 is focusing on the implementation of correct control measures and the correct safe system of work in the organization. In this learning outcome, we have to clear, or we have to fulfill the 9 assessment criteria. So starting from 3.1, we have critically analyze the existing risk control measures and current system of work in the organization. So what you have to do, you have to analyze your existing risk control measures and what type of safe system of work do you have in your organization. So when it comes to critically, so you have to explain each and everything how it looks like in original. You don't have to manipulate the information. You don't have to be biased in that. So you have to explain the actual condition of existing risk control measures and the safe system of work implemented in your organization. So you have to explain that first, that how the current risk control measures are effective in your organization. And then as an evidence, what you can provide the risk assessment, the safe system of work review, you can provide the safety audit reports, you can also provide the workplace inspections, because as you know that inspection is the active monitoring part, but it is after the implementation of risk control. So that can also help you out for critically doing the analysis of existing risk control measures and current system of work in the organization. So you have to first explain that what type of existing risk control measures are there in your organization, and what type of current control, what type of safe system of work do you have in your organization. Is that fine?
Yes, sir. Fine.
Okay. Okay, in 3.2, we have identify for consideration the risk control measures required by statutory requirements, organizational requirements, and industry best practice. So basically, it is again asking about the laws, or asking about the procedures, asking about the processes or protocols do you have in your organization with respect to controlling of risk. So you have to explain that what type of system is there in your organization for controlling the risk. You have to explain that how that system is complying with or doing the compliance with regard to statutory requirement, with regard to organizational requirements, and with regard to industry best practice. So you have to identify that. In this regard, what you have to do, you have to explain that what by law do you have to provide your workers with. Do you need to make PPE mandatory in certain areas, for example, where you did that? And in this regard, we need risk assessments can be used for evidence. Safe system of work can be used as an evidence, because these safe system of work are always the documented procedure or process. So you can produce anything. Then safety signage, if you have in your organization, you can take the picture and share here as an evidence. And you can also share with me in the form of evidence your approved code of practice you have implemented in your organization. So you have to produce all these things as an evidence in the workplace. Now we have 3.3, identify any additional or improved risk control measures that may be needed. So mostly you can perform a risk assessment for this purpose. You can perform normally the inspections. You can perform the action plans or emails which are showing that you need some additional or improved risk control measure in your workplace. So you can use an evidence. First, you have to explain that what type of risk are there. For that risk, you are considering that there should be some additional or improved risk control measures are there. So with response to that, with evidence to that, you have to provide the evidences like in the form of risk assessments. You have to perform the evidence like in the form of workplace inspections, emails, and the actions you have decided to overcome this issue. So you have to explain that. Now moving forward to, is it fine for everyone?
Yeah, fine.
I have a little question here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for instance, every risk assessment, there is always a column for additional risk control measures.
Yeah.
So is this one supposed to be different from that one?
Eh,
So we have
eh,
the
eh,
column, we have the risk, we have already control measures that are in place, and then we have a column for additional controls. So if
Yeah.
I have that, I think the risk assessment should cover the evidence of this, right?
Yeah, that can cover. And sometime what happened, teacher, that we have control measure there, and you can say that, for example, you did it according to risk assessment, you have performed the additional and improved control, but it comes to the information comes from a workplace inspection that you still need improved or additional control measure. So in that regard, you have to look at your workplace inspection, and then you have to implement some additional or improved risk control measures.
Okay, all right. So that is
Okay.
in the case where the the inspection shows there is additional.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And if it is first time that you have implemented the control measures, and you have a portion, or you have a you can say that after implementing this, we will have a column of additional or improved risk control measures. You have a column there. So what you will do, you will just simply review that, and then you will impose or implement some additional improved control measures. So even a risk assessment, which has a column of this, can be used for this purpose too.
Okay.
Okay. Now 3.4, we have identify the resources required to implement the risk control measures needed. It is simply that what are the resources do you have in your workplace? For what purpose? That you are implementing the risk control measures wherever it's needed. So in this regard, in the explanation column, you have to explain that what resources will be required and effective are they at reducing the risk compared to the cost to implement. So you have to explain that what are the resources you are using in your organization. Like you are implementing these control measures by doing the cost benefit analysis, you are doing through emails, you are doing it separate sheet calculations, meeting minute, discussing benefits. Like you are discussing the for example, how this will work. Like I have explained meeting, I have just taken the name meeting minutes discussing benefits. For example, you have some after inspecting the workplace, after reviewing the workplace, you came to know that you need some additional or improved risk control measure. For this purpose, you have to you can say convince your management. If you are in the management, then top management, you have to convince the top management that why these control measures, these additional or improved risk control measures are needed. So after that meeting, well, you convince them. Then after that meeting, the minutes of that meeting will confirm that as an evidence that you have convinced your top management that why these top additional or improved risk control measures are required. So you have to produce such type of information. Then 3.5, calculate the cost effectiveness of the risk control measure needed. It is same, the evidence will remain the same, because for calculation of cost effective, we have cost benefit analysis there. We can use spreadsheet calculations and meeting minutes discussing benefits. So in that we will calculate that what will be the benefit. Yes, teacher.
What in the case where this is discussed on phone, how do we get this evidence?
Yeah, okay. When it comes to phone, Do you know, teacher, very well that whenever it comes to health and safety, you can't take any order, even in the field of even in the security purposes are there, that whenever you have such type of information or order or suggestion, you can't take the can't give it on the phone or verbally. You should need a written confirmation, that you should need a written suggestion and a written confirmation from top management. So a phone call, a verbal communication will not be a good evidence for this purpose, and it will not serve the purpose. So for that purpose, even for example, you called me that I want to implement these additional or improve or risk control measures, and suddenly accident happened during that implementation or after that implementation, I will simply say that when I have asked you, when I have said to you, when I have ordered you to do that, you will say on call is not an evidence. So for this purpose, if you have any opinion suggestions there, you should write him. After initial telephonic conversation, you will go there and you will write an email to the management or top management and giving your suggestions, and you will convince them by writing that email. Then they will confirm you that okay, it's fine, go for these additional or improved risk control measures.
Because I'm saying this is a practical question. I'm not just saying, because there are times where we just have to discuss and they'll ask me to make a request for that resource. So that does the request letter, can it be served as an evidence?
Yeah, the request can be an evidence. The order coming from top management is an evidence that they are convinced, they are satisfied with the identification of additional or improved risk control measures. So all these things can be an evidence, but these should be traceable and it shows some relationship with your workplace.
Okay.
Is it fine?
It's fine.
Okay. Now in 3.5, it is asking about calculate the cost effectiveness of the risk control measure needed. I have told you earlier that cost benefit analysis, spreadsheet calculations, and meeting minutes confirming that they have performed some calculations that how it will work, how it will overcome the issue of cost if we manage or if we can use these additional or improved risk control measure. So you have to justify there. So as an evidence, you can use the cost benefit analysis or spreadsheet calculations or meeting minutes discussing benefits. Okay, in 3.6, consult with managers, employees, representatives, and employees about risk controls needed. So actually, it is focusing on this assessment criteria, is focusing on the communication between the organization and the employee or workers present on all levels. So in this regard, with respect to your organization, you have to explain what you have to explain. Will you be holding meetings or sending out communications to inform people of the risk control measure you wish to implement? Simply, you have to explain that whether you simply have to explain that what are your communication means you are using for communicating these changes or improvement or additional risk control measures to your all the workers. So in this regard, as an evidence, you can use meeting minutes, emails, management review. So it will confirm that you are communicating with the managers, employee representatives, and employees before implementing the additional or improved risk control measures. So 3.7 we have plan the implementation of risk control measures in order of priority. As I have told you earlier, that risk profiling is the best technique we use for this purpose, that we plan the risk control measures according to the priority of risks we are facing in our organization. So for this, what is required from your side, that you have to explain how do you plan to implement these new controls, consider quick wins versus long-term goals, consider the controls which have the greatest effect on risk rating. So you have to explain with respect to your workplace. So what can confirm you are doing this is risk assessments, emails or meeting minutes that will confirm that are confirming that you are doing risk profiling, and then you are implementing the risk control measures according to the risk level or risk severity. Is it okay, teacher? Fahad, Mahmood, Samir, Suraj, Niyaz.
What about the risk register?
Sorry? No.
Risk register.
No. Risk register will not confirm us about the priority of risk and their control measures. Because we need here the profiling of risk, so that it can confirm that what type of importance or priority needed for some specified high risk. So it is the control measures are according to that. So for that purpose, you should have a proper risk assessment in place, because in risk assessment, you can see the risk profiling. Is it fine?
Okay.
Okay. Now moving to
And what about, excuse me, Mr. Asad, what about that the risk assessment sheet? Can we attach the risk assessment sheet?
Yeah. Risk assessment sheet is enough, because in the risk assessment sheet, we have detail of that one. That will confirm that what level is there, high, medium, low, and what type of action you have decided against that, what type of priority you have given to that, what type of control measure you have given to that. So that will help us in this regard, and that is accepted.
Okay.
Okay, now moving to the assessment criteria 3.8, ensure the provision of training for those who need required competencies to implement risk control measure. As you all know, that the competence matters every time or all the time when you are implementing health and safety management system in your organization. So when you are going to implement some specific risk control measures there in the workplace with respect to the risk and hazards, so do remember, for non-competent person, you have to provide them training just for the right implementation of risk control measure. So what you have to do, you have to explain that in your organization, what training will be required, how will it be delivered in your with respect to your workplace. So as a proof, you can provide the training sessions, the TPTs with proof of delivery, external training courses. If you are saying to someone that do a risk assessment course level 3, or for example, for inspection, you can say do a safety inspector course, or you can say auditing, a different thing. But when it comes to risk assessment, you will typically ask him for risk assessment level 2, 3, 4, typical risk assessment course, or risk matrix course, or risk assessment matrix, or anything you can ask for him. But better thing is that the training sessions internally conducted and the TBTs performed on daily basis can be a good evidence and can be a good practice to educate people in the workplace. Okay. Now moving towards 3.9, maintain records of the control measures in sufficient detail to meet statutory requirements, organizational requirement, industry best practice. Do remember, dear, in this unit for 3.1.6, 2.6 and the 3.9, you can use the same evidence because it is again asking about the record of what you are doing in the organization. In 1.6, it was focusing there on that how you are creating or maintaining the record of in safety inspection, safety sampling, safety tours, and safety surveys. In 2.6, it was asking about the risk assessment, how you are managing the records of risk assessment. And in 3.9, it is asking for the control measures you are applying, or safe system of work you are applying. It is asking about the records, how you are keeping or managing for the control measures you are taking, how you and the additional improved risk control measures and the safe system of work. So you can use the same evidence which you have used for 1.6 and 2.6 will be enough for this purpose too. Is it fine for everyone? Hello.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now moving forward to learning outcome 4. Now, how to identify, assess, and control health and safety risk. Before explaining this, I can confirm you that in this one, this learning outcome is just about your knowledge, about your understanding with respect to identification, assessment, and control measures of health and safety risk. So you don't have to provide evidence of that, but you have to explain all of these 4.1 to 4.7, the 7 assessment criteria. You have to explain these with respect to your organization and with respect to your knowledge, because this learning outcome is just confirming that you know all these things very well or appropriately. So here we have 4.1. You have to explain here, evaluate the methods of identification of health and safety hazard within the organization, including risk assessment methods, physical resources, instruments, and survey methods which may be used to determine the level of exposure to people who may be affected. So actually you have to explain that, how you can evaluate the methods of identification of health and safety hazards within the organization, and how you are selecting the risk assessment method, or what are the risk assessment methods, and what are the physical resources do you require, and instrument and survey methods which may be used. So actually it wants just the knowledge, it just want to check your knowledge, that what type of information and knowledge do you have with respect to the identification and assessment of health and safety hazards. So you have to explain these, like workplace inspections, like risk assessments, like the instrument you are using in your workplace for measuring different levels or different exposure to people who may be affected. In 4.2, it is asking about evaluate principles of the analysis methods for determining risk. So it is asking about that what type of principles do you have in your organization for doing the analysis for the methods you are using for risk assessment or identifying risk. So what type of principles you are using, what methods you are using, just you have to do the analysis for that. 4.3, explain external factors influencing the identification of health and safety hazards, including health and safety statutory requirement, acceptability of risk, quality management requirement for documentation. So you have to explain these external factors which can influence when you are doing the identification of health and safety hazard. The first thing is easy to understand, the health and safety statutory requirement. The second thing, it is saying acceptability of risk. It is just something you can say that in many organizations you have different acceptability level. For example, with the severity, or you can say the severity of risk in different circumstances, in different workplaces, can change the acceptability of risk. How? Like, for example, there is a risk of fire in your workplace in oil and gas sector is much more than the risk of fire in a construction industry. So there are different levels of acceptability with respect to the nature of workplace, with respect to the environment of workplace. So you have to consider here that acceptability of risk you have to consider here. Then quality management requirements for documentation. It is just like that for recording of things, what type of management system is there? The management system should be excellent with respect to quality. Is it fine here? Hello? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Okay, now moving to the 4.4, evaluate the nature and role of health and safety risk control measure within the organization. So you have to explain with respect to your organization that nature and role of health and safety risk control measure in organization. So actually, in your organization, you have to see that what type of organization or what is the nature of activities going on in your organization, and you have to evaluate the nature and role of health and safety risk control measure, like how they will behave there and what will be the positive effect of these control, and how these health and safety risk control measures can affect or can do betterment in your organization. 4.5 is justify health and safety risk control measures, including safe system of work. Okay, you have to justify that what type of risk control measure do you have in your organization. As you already explained in 3 point in learning outcome 3 and 2, the risk assessment and everything. So with regard to that, you have to justify that the control measures you have applied are good and the safe system of work you have applied are working okay for you, or simply you can say are working okay for you in your organization, and they are appropriate and enough with respect to your with respect to the nature of your organization. Now 4.6 we have explain external factors influencing health and safety risk control method. So what are the external factors do you have in your organization which are influencing your health and safety risk control method? Like you want to implement some specific control methods, you want to implement some risk control methods there, but whenever you are going to implement that, you have some influence, or you can say you are facing some barriers with respect to external factors, that you have to modify your method, you have to upgrade your methods, or you have to reassess your methods, and after that you are able to implement that risk control measures or method in your workplace. Now the last one is 4.7. Yeah, Mahmoud.
That thing that maybe if affecting our influencing our health and safety risk control methods, like if it can be a resource.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because when it comes to resource is mostly coming from outside, mostly. Okay, so it is something which is external to that management system, which can influence that. Okay, now evaluate risk control hierarchies. So all of you know that in the workplace you have a clear hierarchy of risk control. So you have to evaluate that the risk control hierarchy present in your organization, how it is working, and the hierarchy is correct in use, and the hierarchy is in, you can say, is really good influencing health and safety management system, and the risk controls present in the hierarchy are in a actual right order, in the right sequence, and that sequence is working really well, or whatever the outcomes you are facing with your risk control hierarchies, you have to explain here. Okay, gentlemen, I'm just going to stop the recording for this, and if you have some question, we will discuss after stopping this. So we have stopped.